Well, hello, Ellen.
Well, hello, Trevor.
Here we are back at the table for a winter episode of Yard to Table.
Shall I say happy holidays?
It is a holiday episode. This is the good stuff. We're getting into some really fun times.
Well, it's cozy season.
It is cozy. It's cozy sweater season.
Yes.
It is cozy house season.
Yes, it is mittens, it's sweaters, it's, as our child likes to say, it's cozy.
Cozy.
So
yeah.
nice.
No,
Soups.
it's soups, good food, getting in out from the cold. And it is cold. It is very cold here in our wonderful 7A Connecticut.
Finally, yes, it's very cold. And the forecast has a chance of snow tomorrow.
Yes, it does.
Which is exciting.
It feels both late and early somehow at the same time. We've had kind of a mild fall.
We have.
And all of a sudden, skaboom.
Yeah, you felt a little underprepared for the shift, but I'm here for it, 1,000%.
I'm 100% here for it. We need it. It is necessary.
Correct.
It's interesting because we have put our wonderful gardens at Stonebrook to sleep.
Yes.
To hibernate like bears.
All the little beds are tucked in, literally.
They're all covered up with their little cover crops and their little organic elements that keep them all happy.
For the winter.
And keep the soil healthy over the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's well documented that we love gardening.
We do talk about it a lot.
Based on these episodes.
And it is a big part of our life outside of the podcast.
It is. And, but I'm also happy to take a little rest, a little break.
Well, it's the natural cycle of things.
Yes.
You know, obviously we know lots of people grow through the winter in greenhouses and pots in their kitchens and things like that. But it is sort of what you're supposed to be doing right now is taking a rest.
Taking a rest, taking stock.
Night comes early.
Very early.
It's very
And I know
dark.
you don't like that.
I don't.
Yeah.
No.
You like it late. And I like it late also, but it's that middle period of time that I'm not a big fan of between daylight savings starting and it actually getting late, because then you're sort of in that weird it's 7 a.m. and it's pitch black outside.
It's more like it's 5 o'clock and you think it's midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Berkubane,
very
land
difficult.
of eternal night.
Very difficult, but it is what it is.
And then it comes, and then it comes up to actually, because we're not even in winter now. Here we are, beginning of December, and it's not even winter.
The days are getting shorter and shorter and shorter until we get to December 21st, which is the winter solstice.
And then we're flipping around.
The light starts to come back.
Longer.
The days get longer and longer and more light. And I have to say that is happy times for me.
That is happy times. That is good times.
But the things that get us through this time is, for us, we are big into decorating and celebrating the holiday season.
That's right. And it's interesting because we've talked about on the podcast before having an urge for a thing, a need for a thing. And it's interesting because this time period, I think historically and traditionally, as people decorate for this time of year, greenery is always a big part of that. And that's happened for millennia. And it's interesting because it's almost like a little summer fest in the middle of winter. Well, because you don't see green. You know, the trees are bare, the fields are bare, very stark outside.
Yes, and bringing in the greens makes the house have that warmth and color that you love from
the summer,
from the warmer months.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was a couple of years ago that our child started watching. We all started watching Victorian Farm. It was old public television. Edwardian Farm. It was so
Monastery.
fun. But we were always so excited to watch the holiday episodes and see what people did years ago about celebrating this time of year. And the greens was a huge part of it, making big bowls of pottage, to eat.
I would say we're fairly close to those episodes.
In how we're celebrating the holidays at Stonebrook?
In what we do. It's funny because
we have turned the great room into like a great hall.
It is
with our boughs of
greenery. Holly and greenery.
Medieval hall, I'm thinking.
It really is.
Bringing in the fresh greenery has always been something that we've loved, but obviously now that we live in New England, it's a heck of a lot easier than we were living in Los Angeles, which I will say, even then,
yes,
people used to call our home the Christmas cottage.
It's true. We went all out even then when we were living in the middle of beautiful Studio City with palm trees all around us.
Yes. And we got enough coldness in the air to put a sweater on, and we were thrilled. Sometimes.
If that happened, if it rained, we were happy.
Yeah, but you walked in the door of our house, and it was the Christmas cottage.
Now we basically have the Christmas castle.
There's a lot more space.
We've upgraded.
But fortunately, we have so many collections. We are a collecting family. Yeah.
That's inherited.
Yeah, that your
is inherited. Side. That's more my side than it is your side.
Yeah. Our child has inherited that as well. But we do have some really cool collections.
And some of the collections are actually family collections.
That's
right. Things from family.
Have a lot of history.
I have a lot of nutcrackers.
You do.
Some of those are from my childhood. Some of those are from things that I've been given.
I have given you some nutcrackers. Our child has made you some nutcrackers, which is really fun.
Yeah. So it's a growing collection.
How many do you think you have? Yes.
Probably 50.
He's lying.
It's maybe 60. It's a lot. But there's a huge, giant place for them above our fireplace in the great room.
Yes.
So they kind of line up by scale. The tallest ones are in the middle, and then the smaller ones go cascading down.
It's
to
a bunch
the
of happy soldiers.
Right. They are
all
great.
In a row on
and
top.
They're from so many different countries and so many different places. So I have ones from Hungary, and I have ones from Germany, and I have ones from all over.
And what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite nutcracker?
My child would make me say that the one that was made by her for me and painted is my favorite. And it is a wonderful one. It's very adorable. It's a little Christmas elf, and he's very, very cute. But I think the way so many of us feel around this time of year, you go towards your childhood and your nostalgia of the things that you had when you were a kid. And there's a very small little nutcracker, only about 4 inches tall, 3 inches tall. And that was the first one that I ever got. And special. He has been repaired multiple times. That moves and things. You have a little bit of a damage here and a little bit of a break there, but he has bumps. Yeah, he has soldiered on, as it were. Yeah. So that's probably one of my favorites. There's a lot.
Well, and the other collection that you have that's pretty extensive came from, what our listeners don't know is growing up, your parents traveled and lived extensively all over the world. And so, and your father was a professional opera singer.
Yes, he was.
And so.
And
is, correct.
I think in their 55 years of marriage, which is pretty awesome as it is.
Very awesome.
They have moved 25 times.
Yes.
Or some
globally
bananas amount of times.
Globally.
They don't like to stay put for too long.
From Japan to Hungary to Germany.
All over.
Yes,
and
to
everywhere.
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh boy. Everywhere in between, indeed.
But that collection is that you also have?
Yeah, of crushes. That's from a lot from my dad, things that he had when he was a kid. And for some reason, I got into it as just a unique art form to see how all these different artists have created all of these different small creche scenes.
And for people who don't know, Trevor, what is a creche?
A creche is a small visual representation of the birth of Jesus and all of the trimmings with the three kings and Mary and Joseph and sometimes
elephants
or camels.
A lot of people coming to the party.
Yeah, all the fun elements that surround that story.
And what I love about the collection is exactly what you said. It's the global aspect of it. It's so wonderful to see how different countries interpreted the vision of that creche and the artistry. There's some beautiful pieces that you have in that collection. And my family even contributed one because we had an old German Bakelite creche, right? From when I was growing up.
Pre-plastic kind of formed
The angel has fallen off, and I think there's like a one-armed donkey. No, that doesn't make sense. But
one-legged donkey.
One-legged donkey.
You go. There you go.
But it works in that. And again, this is something that our child has really, we have a bookshelf in our great room that because we produce everything at a very high level in our lives.
We do.
This is a
kind of addicted to production
and a sickness. But we take everything out of those shelves and we put all of the collection of crushes on those shelves. And it's just beautiful, again, to see this global art represented. And our child has taken it over, really. She set everything up this year. And it was beautiful to watch the work that she did. It looks so lovely.
And there's ones from Guatemala and Peru and Germany and Austria and literally Mexico. Every part of the globe has contributed to this unique art form. Some are made of clay, some are pierced tin, some are carved out of wood. They're all hand painted. They're handmade. Some are stone.
And we have a beautiful one that was painted by your grandma Louise, right?
Yeah. So my grandmother did in the 1930s a wooden creche that was all very Art Deco and very specific. My grandparents were big artists. And so we have a lot of pieces from them in various ways, shapes, and forms that also extend into this holiday season. And that was one that we just found recently.
Yes.
And set it up and put it together.
There are a lot of boxes.
There are many
family
items.
Things.
Yes, that's true.
Who
You're
relates
right.
to that listening today of what we inherit? But we love it. It's gorgeous. And I think it's so amazing because we both have this wonderful tradition of things that were made by our families that we continue to use as part of our holiday decorating. And I think we have to talk about Christmas stockings since we were talking about your grandma Louise.
And that is a very unique story.
Yes. So Trevor and I were dating. We lived on opposite coasts when we were dating. I was on the East Coast in New Jersey and he was on the West Coast in Los Angeles. And we dated for about a year bi-coastally. Got engaged, got married. It all happened. When you know, you know. But the first time we were together for the Christmas holidays and you came to my condo, what happened?
I was taken aback.
It was significant. It was
I remember
moment.
Turning around, you closed the door, and I saw the back of the door, and there was this stocking that was hanging.
It was my childhood stocking.
Ellen's childhood Christmas stocking that was done in a stitched felt custom style with her name on it and a little angel with brown hair. And
of course, naturally.
And some little toys that were stitched on and all done
Those
in felt.
Little sequins embroidered beading.
Yeah. Now, I had an almost identical stocking.
Style of stocking, yes.
That's right.
Yours is green, but mine was green too.
Also.
Yes, that's right.
And I was really blown away because I'd never seen someone else that had that kind of stocking before. Yeah. Even if they were...
It was fate, people.
It was, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
If it was a stocking that had been bought in the store or stitched or, there's a lot of people have their names embroidered onto the side of the stocking, but this was very different. This was a fully handmade stocking.
And, as you are when you are in love and we're like, oh, yes, it's just another sign. And then when I finally, and it was, and when I finally got to see your family stocking, so I was like, okay, wow.
It was very, very similar.
But your grandmother had created this. So it's a felt stocking that is handmade and cut out of felt with felt characters on top. And again, with that embroidery.
And she had done one for my dad back in the 50s when he was a kid.
Yep.
And then when my mom came along, she made one for my mom.
Yep.
That's absolutely beautiful with shells that are stitched in as well. Very personalized. Cats that they had at the time were hand cut. And then when I came along, I got one too.
Yeah. And it was so fun because, of course, I had them growing up as well. And I saved my mom's stocking because she wasn't putting it up as much anymore, but I kept all the family stockings. So that was my collecting. And so it was so fun because, again, when our family came together, putting up my mom's stocking, and my dad had passed away, but my stocking, your stockings. And then when our daughter came along, my mom made her stocking.
In the same style.
With
a little sugar plum fairy.
It's so awesome to look at the mantle and to see.
What I think is funny is that your stockings, you, your mom, and our kiddo all face to the left.
That's right.
And my stocking, my mom's stocking, and my dad's stocking all face to the right.
Which actually works out great.
It looks amazing. It looks fantastic. 3 on one side, 3 on the other.
But it's fun every year because our daughter will look at the stockings, and pop-up stocking is a little special because it was built with
His was built with essentially a pleat in the bottom that would open up. So
that's a major
It is a
haul.
huge stocking.
Yeah. It gets, and
it's very hard to fill, by the way, because it's so gigantic that it just keeps going. It's an endless stocking.
But we hear it because she's always like, that stocking can hold more things.
Oh, yeah. But she does fine. She's fine.
She does fine, by the way. Santa takes care of her, and mommy and daddy. And the stockings are a big thing. And, my mother also is an artist, and from sewing to painting to ceramics. She's made so many things. And the things that I love, I think that all of us feel this way, is when you open up those boxes at the holiday of all the things that you've put away, and you just go through memories and that warm feeling of the memory of where that was in your previous Christmas or the Christmas of your childhood. It just is so lovely and connecting us through time and through our families. And my mother has painted so many beautiful things. But the one that I really love the most is our Santa who is on our mantle place. He's just...
It's amazing. Ellen's mom has done a specific...
Sort of in the format of toll painting, like German toll painting.
And it's so detailed and it's so intricate. And some of my favorite parts of Christmas come from things that your mom has made and things that my grandmother made.
Yeah.
And it's these family heirlooms. I mean, that's the word for it. They are family heirlooms. You cannot replace these stockings. You cannot replace Santa on the mantle that is this beautiful wooden, hand-carved folk art Santa that is just every year. It's so breathtakingly beautiful because it's so detailed.
It's joyful. He goes on the mantle in our family room.
Yeah.
And, we have started creating garlands with dried oranges that I put around it. It's just, I don't know, it makes me so happy to see it. And she's also painted little sleighs with hearts that we hang on the tree. And I have a cute little Mr. and Mrs. Claus candle holders that are in the kitchen, and in the style of our stockings, this incredible embroidered felt mobile that I hang over the kitchen table. It's just makes you happy. These are the things that are, like you said, treasures that you can't replace and are just priceless and full of just wonderful memories and love.
I have one more thing to add to that list.
Oh, what else is it?
The other thing to add to the list is something that we found in Ellen's mom's house in Las Vegas when we were moving from Vegas to here.
Yeah.
And it was in a pile of other frames and
what is it?
Other things. Oh, you'll know it in a second.
Yeah.
You'll be like, oh, of course. And it was a painted frame, sort of long oval. And I said, what's this?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And Ellen's mom said, oh, that's no good. It just, you don't need to, that's nothing. And I look at it and it's this awesome, amazing painting of Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim on his shoulder in a beautiful folk art pattern.
Germanic toll painting style. Yeah.
And it's just with little fruits around it. And it's just awesome. And
it is wonderful.
And we put it up every year. And it's just so funny how artists of all sorts think about their work and see their work, because here, this amazing piece of art, and your
mom
was
is very
like,
self-depreciating about it. I'm like, please, it is so good.
It's so amazing.
It's so good. Yes, I know.
And
we were so excited.
She has very high standards, and so do we. And so I think we win, though, from a who knows what's good standpoint, because that is awesome.
Well, and you've made an heirloom for our child.
Oh, yeah. In Los Angeles, I carved an entire mantelpiece because we did not have a mantle
This just tells you how into the holidays we are.
And how addicted to production we are.
Our child was born in October. Christmas was coming in December. And Trevor had this incredible large wood that he had gotten to make a mantle in our house there. And
it was a little more than I thought it was going to be.
It's enormous, heavy. And I think we had so many friends. That was the fun part. For those 2 months, we had so many friends that came over and put some time in.
Because I wanted to do it
finishing
traditionally.
The mantle. So you could
we could
hang the stockings.
Yeah, so it was all done with a chisel and a hammer, and that was
some old school business.
That was hard.
But I was talking about the Advent calendar.
Ah, yes, the Advent calendar.
Yes,
something that I made for something that we could have for a long time.
Yeah,
our kiddo loves Advent calendar and opening little boxes. She grew to love it.
This was from her first Christmas.
That's true. That was one of her first when she was functional with fingers that would actually open and close things.
Yeah, maybe not the first Christmas.
Not the first one, because she was a little bit of a lump.
She got the mantle
one.
for that one.
She's a cute lump, but this Advent calendar has a small scene on top of Santa and some forest friends that I built out, little houses, and it's just this adorable little.
Not so little.
It's kind of big, yeah. And it's got 24 little wooden drawers and with little red berry handles on them. And each evening we all sit around and open up this little...
There's a little music box on it.
I did add a music box to it. So that's right. It plays the 12 days of Christmas, and I wind it up each night and we get a little musical accompaniment to opening the Advent calendar.
Again, we like production. We like traditions. Everything is so busy this time of year. There's so much going on. But just even having those 5 minutes of connectedness and centered around the Advent calendar, it's lovely. It's just a breath in a crazy holiday day, I would say.
Yeah.
But it gets us into the Yule of it all, right?
The Yuletide.
Yes, Yuletide season.
That's a lot of what we do is sort of Yule based, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think people are not
Yard
aware.
to table. It's Yule.
Yes.
It's gardens. It's the outside coming in.
And it's about bringing light in from the darkness.
Yes.
And so I think, we were doing some research for the episode just on our traditions and where they came from. And I think this was so interesting to realize that millennia years ago, when folks started celebrating Yule, Germanic cultures, Norse cultures, it was all about bringing light in the winter and from the cold, and celebrating with greenery and light. And so many of those things have morphed into our current holiday traditions.
Yes, and have been added to our current holiday traditions. Obviously, history is full of people trying to connect in lots of different ways. And one of those is sort of merging very old traditions in with newer traditions, which is how we get Yule and Christmas on the 25th. That was all really based around the winter solstice.
That's right. And Yule is a Norse word, and I had to look it up because I wanted to know the orange. Yeah. Oh, here comes the accent.
This, by the way, I'm just gonna stop everybody for just a second here. From this point on in this episode,
there may be accents.
No. There will be accents because there's some German stuff coming up. There's some business. So just move on. Continue.
Well, Yule is a Norse word for wheel because it reminds us of fresh starts, the cyclical nature of the planet. And it's a time of year where we naturally reflect on what has passed and what's to come. And it's our moment to recognize as the days get longer and more light comes into our lives, that all of the preparation of Yule center around this idea of light, again, which has merged into our modern holiday traditions.
Correct. And a lot of what we do, especially on Christmas Eve.
Oh, Christmas Eve for sure.
There's a lot of fire in our house.
A lot of light.
A lot of light comes in.
A lot of fire. Yes.
And we've created our own tradition both before and during our time at Stonebrook, where Christmas Eve feels like the right time to do all of this.
It's my favorite night of the holiday.
Yeah.
Everything is decorated. It's quiet. It's really a time for closeness with family. It's cold and everything is beautiful. And you're just really taking a moment to take it all in.
There's some fun anticipation for what's to come.
I love anticipation.
But we always start our Christmas Eve celebration when the sun goes down.
And one of the traditions we've merged from my family is the lighting of the Bayberry candles. And for those of you who don't know, Bayberry candles started in the colonial times. Obviously, at that time, candles were huge. I think the average house used something like 400 candles a year.
Yes.
And the tallow that was used in those candles was from livestock, and it was very waxy.
Yeah, it
and
created
smoky,
a lot of smoke, a lot of carbon.
And so what happened for colonial folks that came to the New England area is that they started collecting the berries of the bayberry bush, and that was along the coastline of New England. And they were able to turn these berries into a very special wax that had a small amount of tallow, and then it produced a candle that had a much nicer smell. And it burned cleaner and slower without smoking. And there was a lot of work that went into them. I think it was something like 15 pounds of bayberries that takes to make a pound of wax.
It's kind of like maple syrup.
Right.
You've got all of this 40 gallons of
to one jar,
40 gallons of sap to one gallon of syrup.
And because they were so time consuming and expensive, it became something that they saved for things like a holiday. And it was either Christmas Eve or New Year's. And in my family, we did it on Christmas Eve. So our tradition with the bayberries is kind of similar to what I've read about with the colonial tradition but we take it always a little bit extra. I can remember this as a kid with my mom when we had newspapers. We had looking in the newspaper, so we knew exactly the time that the sun was going to set.
Now we use Google.
Correct.
Less fun, but faster.
But I remember circling it in the newspaper and putting it on the counter so we had it, because that was a very big deal. And then exactly at the time that the sun sets, you light the candles.
The youngest child in the house.
The youngest child in this house helps.
Youngest person in the house.
Youngest person in the house helps to light the candles. The other important thing before that is the tradition of bayberries is they are supposed to be a gift. And again, I remember as a kid, my grandmother would buy bayberries for my mom, and my mom would buy bayberries for my grandmother. And then as my brothers and I got older, my mother would buy bayberries for each of our households. It's important. There is something about the gift of it that also brings, because ultimately the bayberries are to bring you luck and fortune and good health into the new year. So we would light them. It's very important to make sure that you have a good candle holder, that you trim that wick, because they have to burn out to the very bottom in order for it to bring you luck into the new year.
You can't blow it out. It's not a birthday candle.
Once you light it, it's got to stay. And so many times, every year, you've got to put those candles in the sink.
Yeah, you put them in the sink, or you have a metal tray or something, because what you don't want is middle of the night, the fire alarms to go off because the wax has dripped out and caused a
That's
fire.
Not a good Christmas.
That's not a good Christmas. Santa may come sometimes on a fire truck, but you don't want it to actually be to your house.
Not a good holiday.
That's not a good plan.
Not a good holiday. And we usually take a moment when we light those candles to make a wish, to reflect, and again, to think about the things that we want for ourselves and for our family in the upcoming year. And there's a poem that goes along with bayberry candles, which is, "These bayberry candles come from a friend. So on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, burn it down to the end. For a bayberry candle burned to the socket will bring joy to the heart and gold to the pocket." It's so good.
I like that. That's adorable.
But that's not the only thing we light on fire.
This is just I said, this is the beginning of a lot of fire in our house.
And this tradition is one we started for our family.
We started it.
Yes.
Mostly because I like lighting things on fire.
Exactly. And then we found it had more meaning as well.
That's true, but it also is
just about fire.
And also delicious.
Yes.
Here comes the accents.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So
we are going to talk about German Christmas markets.
We are going to talk about Feuerzangenbowle. Yeah.
I don't think you can say it without an accent.
You can't actually say Feuerzangenbowle without an accent. So here it comes. This is a traditional German drink that's served at Christmas.
And it literally means fire tongs, right?
Yes. Now, Bowle is actually, you would think, Feuert, fire, Zange, tongs. Bowle is not bowl.
No?
It's punch.
Fire tongue punch.
Fire tongue punch.
It's delicious.
It is delicious. So it is traditional German drink. It's 200 some odd years old. So it doesn't date back as far as Yule or a Christmas tree. It doesn't go back that far, but we are glad that it was invented because essentially it's a flaming pot of goodness that tastes like Christmas.
So you take your variation of a traditional Glühwein, right? Which is a Christmas wine.
Christmas wine, like a sweeter Christmas wine. And essentially how you make it is you take red wine. The Glühwein is a traditional, sweeter, spicy German mulled wine. And in order to make that part of it, we start off with a nice Merlot. That's usually what we use, bottle of Merlot. Put it into a pot. And you want to start simmering that, getting the heat up on that. You don't want to boil it. You want to just keep it at a nice low simmer.
A slow heat.
Yeah, a slow heat. Add a lot of orange slices, 6, 7, 8 orange slices, lemon slices, cloves. You can stick the cloves in the lemon slices if you want to. You can put the cloves in directly. Just fish them out later. Not a big deal. Cinnamon stick. Better to use cinnamon than to use powdered cinnamon. You know, you want to use the stick so you get the same thing so you can get it out.
It's a bold, it's a good seeping of the flavor.
Yeah, you want to start getting all of those Christmas flavors in, right? Especially with the clove and the oranges.
Did you do star anise? I can't remember if that was
No, I did not use star.
No star anise. Okay.
No star anise. But you could use juniper. You could put little juniper berries in there. You could add a little bit.
Go for it. Whatever your spice profile is.
Whatever you like.
It.
It's all going to be acceptable.
No rules.
Cup and a half of orange juice, half a cup of lemon juice, and you just continue to heat that and make it nice and delicious. Now, here's the tricky part. It's not tricky, but in order to make this drink the fantastic thing that it is.
And there is a traditional...
Exactly. There's a traditional cauldron or pot for the Feuerzangenbowle, which is essentially could be copper. There are glass versions of it that you can find online.
We have a copper pot.
Ours is copper with copper tongs
and mugs,
copper mugs, but you can find a lot of different versions. You can even use a fondue pot if you have one kicking around. If you're celebrating your 70s and you want to have some cheese and then pour some wine in there, all melted together. I don't think that
recipe.
Would be, that's not the right,
recipe,
don't want to do that. But once all of that is hot and delicious, then pour it into one of these cauldrons, these Feuerzangenbowle cauldrons. And then on top of it, we're going to add the Zuckerhut onto the top of it.
Bless you.
No. This is not like a Gesundheit type of a... No, this is not correct. A Zuckerhut is also called a sugar loaf or a sugar cone. And everybody might not know about a sugar cone or a sugar loaf, but essentially that is a dried conical shape of sugar. You can find them online. You can also make it yourself.
You've done that.
I have done it. I would say it's a little bit tricky when you try to make it yourself because it doesn't set immediately. You need a couple of days to let it all dry out. But essentially you would mix a little bit of water, like 1 teaspoon of water for every cup of sugar, mix that together so it kind of creates like a wet, sandy kind of a feeling, and then pack it really hard into a glass, like a Pilsner glass or something like that. And then you have to let it sit for a long time. When I first made my first Zuckerhut, I didn't realize how long it would take to dry.
That's right.
And I think I did it that day.
Oh, I'm sure you did it that day.
And I was like, uh-oh. But what you can also do is I found out, this is a pro tip, you can add a heated fan right next to your Zuckerhut, and you can blast it with hot air for the entire day. And that will essentially dehydrate and dry it out.
There you go.
I don't recommend that.
No.
I do not recommend that.
Any more stress on holiday.
You don't. But for your Feuerzangenbowle set, most likely it'll come with a little sugar cone holder.
Which clips on the top of the bowl.
Right, goes right on the top of the bowl, because the idea here is you want to coat this delicious Zuckerhut with a high-proof rum. See?
That's getting the secret ingredient.
It's getting better and better every minute of the day. So we use 151. It has to be a very high proof. So you want to drizzle all of that onto the sugar cone, set the sugar cone down, and then light it on fire.
Which is pretty spectacular.
It is very awesome to look at.
It is. And it's safe because it's in the bowl.
Safe-ish. I wouldn't.
We had one
We've
year.
had some high flames one year, but I think that's really where all the magic happens.
Yeah.
Because then the rum starts burning down the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
The sugar starts melting and it starts dripping hot, molten, delicious sugar.
Rum sugar.
Down into, which sounds like a German word, but it's not.
Sugar.
Rumsch.
I did not do an accent, by the way.
Rumzuka. I'm sure that's totally wrong. But that's really where all the flavor comes together, is when you have all of this deliciously warm sugar that's all melted together with the glühwein, and it's all coming together. And that's...
And you just ladle that into a copper mug.
Your cups, and
we toast.
We toast and we drink it, and it can be very potent.
Oh, yes.
It also depends on how much rum I put onto the sugar cone, because sometimes that can be a little excessive. So then you've got wine, and 151 is not fooling around rum. So
no, and I mean, so we, again, it's fire in our house. It's bayberries. It's the Feuerzangenbowle, and then we do our Yule log, which is also more fire.
That is a lot more fire, actually.
And we're not talking about the Yule log cake, obviously.
Bûche de Noël.
The Bûche de Noël,
Oh, ouais.
which is delicious and is in homage to the traditional Yule log.
It is.
I guess consuming it brings you luck. Makes you happy.
Because it's beautiful chocolate cake filled with cream and deliciousness.
Yes.
So
all the good things.
Nobody's going to complain about any of that.
But traditionally, the Yule log was burned in a hearth over the 12 days of Yule. But how do we do it at Stonebrook, Trevor? Or how have we always done it? Because we did it in LA.
We did it in LA too. And by the way, it is much harder to find evergreens in LA than it is in Connecticut.
Yes.
I'm just going to put that one out there. I have a much wider variety of things
in your
to
own
choose
yard.
from. In my own
you
yard.
Forage in your yard here in New
Yard
England.
to Hearth.
That's
it's a
right.
new podcast called Yard to Hearth. This having a Yule log, having something that you bring in from outside is traditional all the way back to Celtic times. And so for us, the way that we do it is I go out with the kiddo and we identify a log. Traditionally,
the finding of the log.
The finding of the Yule log. Traditionally, the Yule log is oak. That's pretty much the standard because it burned for so long. And that was the goal, to try to keep it burning for 12 full days.
I can't imagine the size of the medieval Yule log in those giant hearths.
Big.
Yikes.
Yeah, no,
and also awesome.
It took 3 or 4 people to lift it. It took 3 or 4 people to set it in. And it was a constant. There was somebody that would check and tend and make sure that it would continue to burn. So for us, our Yule logs are nowhere near that big because they would not fit. So I'll go out with the kiddo. We find a log, something that is usually pretty gnarly, has lots of knots in it. And Lots of character and lots of fun. It should be fairly dry because it does need to burn down. Much like our Bayberry candles, it also needs to burn completely out. Entirely. Once we found the log, then we go and we find the greenery that we're going to connect to.
You dress it.
We dress it up. And a lot of that greenery has its own meaning as you go through. So,
and let's be real, when we first started this, it was about greenery and it was pretty. And then we started to research the meaning of the greenery.
Absolutely. And you find out that there's different things. So when you add pine boughs on top of your Yule log, that is about prosperity and growth, or holly is about visions of the future. So there's these different old meanings that are fun that kind of connect us to these rituals that we do, that we have done for a very, very long time. So we wrap the Yule log and those greens in little ribbon that's either gold or red. Again, trying to bring in those outside colors.
Use it from a present from the year before because I like to save ribbon.
Ellen does save ribbon. She has I
have an extensive used ribbon collection because I like to be sustainable. In all of that.
And then we'll bring that log in, and it's with us during the day, and then we put it on the fire, and that's a moment that we all have where everybody's quiet. and we all just sit and watch and listen to the different evergreen boughs catch in different ways with these showers of sparks and color and sound. And we're all just very quiet.
Sometimes it's hard for our family to be quiet.
Sometimes it's hard for kids and parents alike to be quiet, but we do our best. And sometimes I'll give a look. It's happened before.
Trevor is the giver of looks.
Happen again. But it is actually, in truth, one of the only times that we are all together and are totally quiet.
Yeah.
And it's just about trying to think about our intentions for the year and thinking about our intentions for each other and just having a moment with our family that is really transports us to another place of peace.
Yeah, place of peace. You know, again, as we go through sort of how our night goes, it's so lovely. And our family looks forward to it. We know, and our kiddo, now that she's older, loves to make sure we're staying on task for how the evening is going to roll out. And then what happens with the log at the end after it burns out?
So then for luck, the next day,
more luck,
we will take a little of the ash and put it in a little jar that goes under our bed.
And that's like that's
an old
tradition.
Yeah. For luck for the new year. So you have a bit of that Yule log. Now it is weird sometimes if you're cleaning and you're like, what's this jar of dirt under the bed? But then it's the Yule log.
Okay.
Nice.
Yes, that's
nice,
true.
Nice.
True.
And then we tell stories around the fire as the Yule log goes.
So much fun. Everyone picks a story or a poem. Again, our kiddo is in on it too. She reads the night before Christmas or picks last year she read something new. It's just, everybody takes a turn. It's so fun. It's always a holiday story of some kind, and it's quiet.
Yeah.
There's no TVs, no phones. It's just lovely. And then we put some cookies and milk out because the big guy's got to come.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And my mom has a sugar cookie recipe that I don't even know, by the way.
I would love to be able to share it.
It is literally a secret recipe.
It's simple, I'm sure, but it's so good.
It is friends, I am a cookie connoisseur.
Yes.
I will eat a cookie.
You and your dad are cookie monsters.
We are cookie monsters,
yes,
for sure. And I have met the real cookie monster, and he thinks I'm pretty awesome. So from the amount of cookies that I can eat, but I will say that my mom's sugar cookies are pretty fantastic. They are the best, and I think some of it is the nostalgia of the flavor of what I've always known, but they are pretty. There's a slight saltiness to them that comes through.
And she makes the very traditional icing with the confectioner sugar.
Very balanced flavor of sweet cookie with a little, just a hint of saltiness, which just brings it all together. And they are delicious.
And they're just so traditional and fun because she uses all the great cookie cutter shapes. And we've done it as a family decorating cookies. You know, our daughter has done it just with her grandparents with decorating cookies, and those plates of these crazy colorful and iced cookies are just everything you want to put wrapped up in a bow for Christmas.
Totally.
So it's super fun. And then we put that plate out, some milk, some carrots.
Magic happens.
And the magic happens.
The Santa magic occurs.
Yeah.
And then the next day we all have fun with presents in the morning, and then we'll start eating.
There is a sticky bun that we have on Christmas morning that none of us make. Again, is a tradition from my family, which was not easy to do on the West Coast. Although I did have a very good friend ship them to us one year. It's a tiny little bakery that is in southern New Jersey, and they make these honey buns, they call them, which they're sticky buns, and some come with nuts and some come without. And we buy them over the summer and we freeze them. And we keep them in the freezer because this bakery is about 3+ hours away from us.
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah, but we have those at breakfast time while we're opening presents, which is so fun. And then Christmas Day for us, of course, then is about playing with the things that we got, spending time with our family, and making Christmas dinner.
We are big on turkey for Thanksgiving. We had a delicious bird this year.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
But we'll
Great brining job, my love.
Why, thank you. Usually we'll go more towards a roast filet, or we've done porchetta in the past, with just, that's an amazing,
very delicious
dish.
That's a great recipe too to share.
Maybe we'll do that this year.
Or we could do Christmas Eve.
Yeah, we'll do Christmas Eve. Anything with pork, I'm sold American.
And then we just have and it's very traditional, mashed potatoes and sides that go with that. And we put out the good china and sit around the table and really have a nice meal. And desserts, cookies from Oma. We make a traditional cranberry cake that we do at Thanksgiving, but we call it the Christmas cranberry cake at Christmas. And then I've gotten very into our Christmas pavlova.
And it is delicious.
I make a wreath.
Yeah.
With berries and pomegranates and all mint and a little, yogurt in the pavlova. And it is just so pretty and delicious at the same time. I
was very amazed the first time you made it because it came out so well.
Yeah.
It was photographically perfect and you had never made it before.
I say this all the time. I'm not a baker.
And yet every time you bake something like the turkey pot pie that you just baked was delicious.
The leftover turkey pot pie.
I don't believe you anymore. I'm done with that. I'm done believing you.
I don't really like following directions when it comes to cooking.
And baking is much more of like a science.
You've got to live to the recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like the results and I'm very task focused when I'm following the recipe. So
well documented.
Yeah. So talking about all of this makes me excited.
It's coming up. The season is coming. It's here.
For the holidays to come, the solstice and celebrating all our Yuletide traditions and
being together.
And being together as our family.
That's really why Stonebrook is such a special place for us because nobody has to travel.
No.
Nobody has to get on a plane or a train or an automobile. Great movie. But we all just get to be close and
walk
be
to each
together
other's houses
and do a little Christmas parade around each house. We've done that on the day and everybody gets to have a little bit of time in their house.
Yeah, it's really lovely. And for all of you listening, we hope that this season brings you the light and the love and the good health and happiness that you want. And all of that as well that come to you in the new year.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays. Thanks for being with us and having a seat at our table.
Yard to Table is a production of Macrocosm Entertainment. Don't forget to rate us and subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. And for tips and more information, follow us on Instagram at Stonebrook House.